Hello everyone, middle of January 2022 here. Right here is the remnants of an open colony at one of my yards from last year. I believe it was established probably late May, early June. I wasn't aware of it till about the probably middle of August, and the combs were already that big. I'm reasonably sure that what the comb that built this colony, the colony is now dead, and the colony was alive back in the middle of December, but it's now perished. But I believe the colony that I did my first swarm catch video on last spring, called How I Catch Swarms from 2 to 8 feet off the ground, I believe this is the last hurrah of it. That colony no longer exists. It wound up being hopelessly queenless back in the fall. But they did build some beautiful combs right here. Now when I come up here about a month ago, all the bees was tucked nicely in between those two longest combs right there, but it's now empty. I was pretty sure they wouldn't make it. They didn't have enough resources stored up there, and plus this is on top of a hill, and those combs are oriented east and west. But some nice combs, and I'll probably get up here on one of my rounds and bring me a bucket. I think I can reach those combs, and I'll try to knock those down and render them and make use of them. But that's the second biggest open colony comb I've ever seen in my beekeeping career. Excuse the noise in the background, it's a heat pump. But right there is the empty stand from that colony that I had wound up moving up here. So what happened was, when it swarmed, I caught it, re-established it because it was so early, brought it up here and caught it about to swarm again. And I took 4 frames of brood out of it and tore all the queen cells out. But probably about a month when I went through it again, I could tell it had swarmed. And I had looked around. Every swarm I've ever had up here has settled in this dogwood tree. But and I really didn't look closely that way, but obviously I missed it. As you can see, we've got a nice view up here, probably the best view anywhere around my home. And this is not my home, by the way. This is a good friend of mine. And I just checked the weights of all of these colonies here, and they're all full. I probably won't have to feed any of these this spring. This yard, for whatever reason, makes a lot of honey. Bees mostly fly down in there. That timber was cut probably 10 or 15 years ago. But I've noticed over my career, after about 2 or 3 years, as the growth starts to come back, the honey production really goes up, and usually you'll get a lighter color honey, at least in my experience in this area. But anyway, I just want to take a couple minutes and share that pretty neat open colony that was there. And once again, it's perished. It's not alive any longer. Well, I appreciate you for taking time to watch this video, and we'll see you next time.
I'd like to add a footnote to this video by addressing a question that you may have that some of my beekeeping friends here locally have posed to me. Why didn't I go ahead and catch those bees? The answer for me was, I felt like that colony had excessive swarming genetics. I don't want that in my operation. So I elected to just leave the bees be, and then I would check on them periodically to see if they actually had survived or not. If you look closely in this picture, you can see the bees tucked nicely in between those longest combs up there. This is around December the 10th or 12th. It was still very warm at that time, and the bees were still alive, but I was pretty confident they wouldn't make it. I didn't see enough resources for them up in there. And here's a view from the side. This side you're looking at here is facing north. Like I said earlier, the combs are oriented east and west, but definitely some beautiful combs, and I'm going to probably try to get something and scrape those combs off and render them and get some use out of them. I estimate those combs, those 2 longest combs, to be hanging down probably around 12 to 14 inches. Like I'd said in the video, definitely at least the second biggest open colony I've ever seen personally. And here's the view from the other side. kind of more layered, almost cake-like from this side. This is the view from the south side of the combs. Pretty neat how they done that. Here's a photo of another open colony that a beekeeping friend of mine about 10 minutes away, he come across, and he decided he wanted to try to save it. And he got some help, and they went and cut this down, and he moved it into a barn at his home. This particular friend of mine lives about 10 minutes away. So it'll be interesting to see if they make it. His plan was to feed the bees and keep them dry out of the rain till the spring, and then transplant them into a regular hive. So we'll get to see how that turns out. Right here you can see the end result as they get the open colony in on a sawhorse-like device inside of his barn. And I think he was going to kind of lay a tarp or something over it and try to keep them fed up. Now, we had some nice warm weather throughout mid to late November all the way through the end of the year, so he had good opportunity to get those bees fed up, and hopefully they'll make it. And we'll find out here in a couple of weeks or so if they're still alive, and if they are, towards the 1st of March, he'll be able to transplant those into a regular colony. Well, appreciate you joining me for this video, and we'll see you next time.